bringing together powerful voices, climate activists, sustainability leaders, and key policymakers. The Times Network India Climate Summit united to shape an actionable agenda for a climate-resilient India. With a clear directive for impactful climate action for the next decade, the summit championed dialogue and discussion on fostering a resilient India through energy, action, and sustainability at the center. Across every session, distinguished experts and change makers shared insights, solutions, and strategies, championing awareness and protecting the future of our planet. Together, the agenda for a sustainable tomorrow was set down for the next decade. In this episode, joining us was Gauri Singh, Deputy Director General of the International Renewable Energy Agency, who in an invigorating discussion explored the transition to clean energy with Shreya Dhondiyal.
Gauri ji, thank you very much for your time here on the Times Network. Can I start by asking you what a world driven, powered by clean energy looks like beyond the electric vehicle?
You know, when we switch on the light in our houses, do we know whether there are green electrons that are powering it or there are electrons that are coming from coal, oil, and gas? We don't know that. So essentially, what a world will look like when we move into this, future energy systems. This is going to be very different from what we see now. And how is it going to be different? Right now, you do know that we have these large, and I hope some of you would have seen these very large, centralized coal plants that are producing energy for us. We know in Delhi, there's one which is, emitting also a lot of smoke. And we also know that we power our vehicles through oil, our transport runs on oil. But in fact, even our industry uses a lot of fossil fuels, oil, gas, to do their industrial activities. So in many countries, and there's this very interesting thing that happened in Germany when the Ukraine war happened, that when they were getting into winters, they were really desperate because they didn't want to buy the Russian gas. But not buying it meant that they would freeze because all their heating needs were actually being met by gas. So there are a large variety of ways in which we use energy. And to be able to convert all of that into green means that we start using technologies very different from what we are using now, which are, of course, using solar and wind for powering our homes, our industries. It's using electricity to also power the vehicles on the road, using hydrogen to look at decarbonizing our heavy industries like steel, like chemicals, refineries, and for looking at, battery storage. So that, when we talk about solar and wind, it's not like when we talk about coal, which gives us, like a base load, which is stable energy. Solar, what happens is if there's a cloud, suddenly it'll dip, wind blows, sometimes it doesn't, so it's variable energy. Now the grid has to get adjusted to it, and to be able to bring more of this kind of energy into the grid, we also will need a lot of more battery storage or storage from pump storage and others. So essentially, we are reimagining and we will be reinventing our energy system. So it's a very exciting new world.
It's an exciting new world, but it's a world you've been part of for the last 30 years. So let me ask you a question that is associated with your new role and your old role. You've just spoken about solar energy. In India, there is a lot of talk, excitement, and hope around solar energy. In fact, India is the headquarter for the Global Solar Alliance, right? In fact, there is a report that is just out that is telling us that India has surpassed Germany to become the third largest producer of solar and wind energy. So that's good news. My question to you is very simple. In India, we love free and we love cheap, right? So we have enough and more free sun in most parts of the country. Plus, if our electricity bills come down to zero, I mean, nothing could be greater than that for most of us, right? My question to you is, are you really seeing as many households in India put solar panels that are playing behind us and generate their own energy, which means that the electricity bills will come to zero? वो नहीं हो रहा. Why is that? Why do you think?
In India, there are two ways in which we are looking at solar, either at a level of utility, which is large solar. So you have 100 megawatts, you have 200 megawatts, and now you have almost 1,000 megawatts also that are getting put up in solar parks. So large-scale solar parks getting deployed to feed into the grid. So that's anyway greening our electrons to a large extent coming from solar. But I think the real advantage that we have is that as a country with, mostly we are not, most of our towns and all are not high-rise. So you do have roofs and ownership on those roofs where solar could indeed be put. But the challenge that we have to see is, in my views, there are three challenges that we have to address. One is that solar has, when you put solar at your home, then it has an upfront cost. So it's not like an electricity bill where you pay some X amount every year and you don't even know how much you've paid at the end of the year. So there is a high upfront cost, which has also been decreasing over the years. So you need to have a good scheme that can finance it. So something which can bring you that kind of a EMI setup, by which we buy vehicles and so many other consumer goods. So essentially, solar has to be reduced to a commodity.
Correct.
So it becomes like a consumer good. So you go to one of these multi-brand shops, just as you buy a refrigerator, you also go and buy a solar system, and they would offer you a EMI. So it has to come to that level. So where the finance becomes really easy for consumers and they can have it put up.
That's very interesting. You're saying there has to be ease of buying. There has to be
Exactly.
ease of business, but there has to be ease of buying. Just like
Right.
you can go in and buy a refrigerator on an EMI and then expect an after-sales service if that's what you provide for solar energy and solar panels, that's the way forward. So let's just see where we are right now, right? What is the basic goal of renewable energy? The basic goal is that we transition from fossil fuels to energy sources like wind, solar, geothermal as well, right? Where are we right now? Right now, and this is latest data that has come to us, 30% of the world's electricity is renewable, right? But the other side of the story is electricity is not the only way in which we consume our energy. There are heavy industries that are to be run. Our vehicles need energy. 85% of that consumption still is fossil fuels. When you look at these two sets of data, is the glass half empty or half full?
All right, so maybe I shouldn't talk about the glass being half empty or half full, but rather about it being continuously being filled. And if I look at a global picture and give you a sense of how much renewables is being put. Now, maybe this number will not make a lot of sense in terms of the huge amount it is, but nevertheless, we did almost 600 gigawatts, which is 600,000 megawatts. Now, that's huge. That's more than the capacity that we have in India that got deployed globally for renewable solar, mostly solar and wind. So what's happening is that globally, the amount of renewables that is getting added to address our energy needs, about 90% of that addition is coming from renewables. So you can imagine that how huge the momentum is. What a strong business case it is, because not only is 90% of any new addition that we are doing to increase our energy capacity globally, that's all coming from renewables. But interestingly, if you compare the cost of new renewable plants vis-a-vis, alternatives like fossil fuel, 80% of the cases you will find that renewables is cheaper. So which means you're looking at something where the technology is now well known. It's not now anymore very esoteric to say. It's very much mainstream. You are also looking at it being cheaper. And if you look at the kind of research that's going into storage, which is what will bring in more renewables, because unless you have storage, you probably can't reach that kind of level that you want for achieving net zero. But there's a huge amount of investments that is going globally for increasing our capacity to have both short duration and long duration kind of batteries and storage are being continuously being built. Now that would really, I think if you look at it in the way we are moving from now to 2030, and again, when the G20 was held in India, there was a call to triple the renewable energy. And as I told you, last year we added about 585,000 megawatts. We probably need to do about 100,000 megawatts to reach where we want to reach by 2030. But I think the kind of year-on-year growth that we are seeing, the kind of growth we're also seeing in investments, I think that's a really very positive sign.
Can I ask you then, so to my mind, from what you have said in the last 10 to 12 minutes is, there is probably a problem of scale. How do you scale up clean energy? There is an argument that is often made. It is that let's not put too much hope in renewable energy. What you need to look at is nuclear energy. And and the example given is of France, where 70% of their energy, of their electricity is actually coming from nuclear plants. Is that the way forward? And is nuclear energy considered clean energy?
So nuclear definitely is considered clean energy, low carbon clean energy. And I think for a country like India that has, just a few years ago, we had, as a country, got all our households across the country connected to the grid. Now, when you do that kind of access, and you provide that kind of access to a population that has growing aspirations, what that does is, why would a person who's sitting in rural India not want to also have the kind of appliances that we enjoy in urban India? And that means that we will continuously see a growth in demand for electricity, and we are seeing it. So which means that for a country like India, it's not this or that, it's all. So we definitely should be doing what we need to do in nuclear. We definitely are doing a great deal of work in renewables. But in nuclear, I do have to say that there is a very long gestation period. Gestation, you start looking at building it today, you probably will, it'll take you 8-10 years to have it functional. With renewables, the period that you take to put even, say, 1,000 gigawatts on the ground is between 18 to 20 months. So there is this speed that has now become pretty much the norm for renewables, which is why you see so much of a surge happening in it.
But what happens to that speed when the leader of one of the richest countries in this world and also one of the biggest energy consumptions in this world, that's the United States of America, says, drill, baby, drill. Essentially, he's saying, renewable energy can go take a walk. I don't care.
You know what's interesting and what a lot of us don't know about the US is that, I mean, in India, if we look at our grid, we proudly are today one nation, one grid. So we have one grid that connects all the entire country. In US, there are probably 20 types of grids, 20 different grids. So all the states have their own grids. They have their own policies. And what the president might be saying, if there is a strong business case in California to continue to do what they need to do on renewables, or if Texas, the constituency that he comes from, the wind and the solar are showing such strong footing and there's a surge, that really means that because you are now at a time when the momentum, not just in the US, but globally, there's such a strong business case and there's such a strong momentum and showing for renewables that for one person to come in and say that you don't do it, it might be, just before me, Saurabh called it a blip. So in a transition which is going to span like 20, 30 years, if it's a small blip, it's a small blip because no one actually said that energy transition will be smooth, seamless. You'll have these geopolitical issues coming up. You'll have these challenges of wars happening where prices of energy might go up and it might affect your supply chains. All those things will happen. But even so, I think when you have a source of energy that is proven in terms of its ability to transform an energy system, I don't think there's, that momentum's just too strong.
So, in recent times, there's been a lot of talk about data centers and energy consumption, that every time you Google something, every time you buy something online from Amazon or wherever, you are consuming loads and loads of energy. Now, Gauriji, my contention here is that is only going to grow. How are they going to deal with it?
Till a few years back, let me just take you back just to about 2022. Most of the developed countries, European countries, their main goal was, look, we have to do just a technology switch. So if we are today using coal and gas, we now need to get into renewables. So, they were not looking at very major surge in the electricity demand. But now, most of these countries are now aware that with the increase in digitization, with the increase in consumers utilizing AI and many other tools, there will be the need for new data centers to come up. Naturally, those are big, massive consumers of energy. And I'll give you an example of Singapore. So I was talking to the minister in Singapore, Minister of Energy, and this is 2022. And so Dr. Tan, he told me, look, these, we have this trajectory that we want to do in Singapore for net zero, but it's going to be mostly gas-based. And we want to continue. We've done what we can for our rooftops. Singapore, as you know, is it's a city-state. So they said, that's what we're looking for. Then I had the chance to meet him again after 2 years. And he had something very different to say. He said, Singapore has these data centers. We may not like them because, they're big energy consumers, but definitely we are not willing to let them go. And they've come to us saying that we will stay in Singapore only if you provide us green energy. And he said, that made our government think that what are the choices we have? And he said the choices were something that we were not even thinking 2 years back. And now we are talking to our neighbors, Malaysia, who, we have a iffy kind of a relationship. And we are talking to Laos and trying to get in hydropower through Malaysia into Singapore. And also talking to Indonesia. There's an island which is very close to Singapore, and we want to do an underground sea cable and bring in solar, just so that we can provide the green electrons or green energy that these data centers need. So all countries would want to keep these data centers, especially the emerging and the developed countries would like to see them there, but also make sure that they can consume green energy rather than be built on fossil fuels.
India is a global leader in the global south, right? We may not have achieved 100% success, but we are doing many things right in the sector of renewable energy. Could you tell us some of those areas that smaller developing nations can emulate?
See, I think we've really done very well in creating a market for renewables, which is very policy driven. So very strong policy that has seen us use auctions to bring in more green energy. That has also reduced the cost of electricity very significantly. So that's something we've done very well. Then we just heard an example from Maharashtra about the distributed systems and policies that have driven. So again, extremely good business models and ways on which you can bring in more green energy into your grid. What we have also done very well is with this manufacturing PLI schemes, we made sure that we can become a hub for not just meeting our domestic needs, but also being able to supply equipment, clean energy equipment to other countries in the global south and elsewhere. I think the International Solar Alliance, which is really leadership by building coalition, that's a very strong step that has been taken. And I think the best thing that we've done is, as a country, we have provided access to all the households in the country of energy, but we've done so keeping in mind that we don't really increase our carbon footprint that much. So I think that balancing act has been really done extremely well. And I think that's something which a lot of developing countries could learn from India.
We are not 100% there, but we are walking in the right direction. I guess that's what you're saying. Gauriji, thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much. This has been a session where I have learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks.